there be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy.
Read.
And the 10th I will utter with my tongue.
Read.
A man that hath joy of his children.
A man that hath joy of his children. Go ahead.
And he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy.
Right, that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. Because the Most High going to raise up the tribe of Gad. Now I'm going to read it again. It says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. So we're going to live to see our so-called Native American Gadite brothers rise up and get you so-called white people back and get vengeance on you for the evil that you have done unto them. Right, so let's get Deuteronomy 33 now. Get the next prophecy on Gad in Deuteronomy the 33rd chapter, and I believe it's the 20th verse. So all this is in the scriptures, man. We know who the tribes are. A lot of you say, oh, Native Americans are not our people. We gonna go in some of the books and show what even the so-called white scholars identified the so-called Native Americans as Hebrews, man. You're talking about they Chinese, and we gonna dispel that too. How they didn't come from the Bering Strait, and they're not so-called Chinese. By Shema Mashak Yahushua, we're gonna get into that. Right? So go to Deuteronomy 33, and you got something in that book?
Yeah, yeah, I have to read this.
Okay, Deuteronomy 33, and let's get 20.
And of Gad, he said, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad.
Right, because the so-called Native Americans, they came over and they possessed this whole so-called U.S. now, man. As a so-called white man, you came and raped, robbed, and murdered and stole this land from the Native American Indians, man. Right? The Lord said, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. Because the Most High brought the tribe of Gad over here. And when you look on the ancient Native American, so-called Native American maps, you see the massive amount of land that the so-called Gadites have all over America, man. Now you so-called white people have took America, and you take all the citizens and pack them in cities, and take the tribe of Gad and pack them on a reservation. Man, they have plains and plains of land and field they were dwelling on when they came in this land, man. But you so-called white people, like the murderers and the thieves that you are, you came and raped, robbed, and murdered, and slaughtered them. Give me Micah 2 and 2. Right, hold Deuteronomy 33 and 20, and we're going to get Micah 2 and 2. Say it again, huh? You was bringing out something?
Nah, you too wild, man. I was following you. They cover fields and take them by dollars.
Come on. Get Micah chapter 2, verse 2. Right, yeah, man. The Lord said he blessed and enlarged Gad because they had a great, massive land when they came over here. Even Canada, right? Some parts of Mexico, all that you took from the tribe of Gad, man. All that land you so-called white people raped, robbed, and murdered, and stole. You just came and took Canada, took so-called North America from the Native American Indians, man. Because the Most High enlarged them and gave them this land. Right? Give me Micah 2 and 2.
The book of Micah, chapter 2, verse 2. And they covet fields.
Right, they covet fields. They lust after and desire fields, different parts and lands of the world. Go ahead.
And take them by violence.
And do what?
And take them by violence.
And that's exactly what you did. You came and raped, robbed, murdered, and slaughtered the so-called Native American. It tells you that in this book. It tells you about the Trail of Tears. Right, or how the so-called Native Americans traveled throughout different parts of America on a trail of tears of all the lands that the so-called white man was just following them and killing them and raping and robbing and murdering them and taking their land from them. Right, so read it again, brother.
Micah 2, verse 2. And they covet fields and take them by violence.
And they take them?
By violence.
Right, you still land through violence, man. You're always going and bombing and killing somebody. Now you have more sophisticated weaponry and technology, so you're always going and bombing and killing somebody now. Right? Come on.
And houses.
Read.
And take them away.
Houses and take them away. Go ahead.
So they oppress a man.
They oppress a man. Go ahead.
And his house.
And his house. And it tells you in the history how a lot of so-called Native Americans, the Gadite brothers and sisters, what did you do, man? You raped, robbed, and murdered them and dispossessed them out of their houses. A lot of times, you would lure so-called Native Americans out of their houses, and you would be waiting with a contingency of men and slaughter them off, man. You would slaughter their wives, their children, everything. It's all in the history, man. Right, so go ahead.
And and so he oppressed a man in his house, even a man in his heritage.
Right, and a lot of you took that knowledge away from the so-called Native Americans that they were Hebrew Israelites. Even though the so-called, the tribe of Gad, they started to go off into worshiping the sun, the moon, right, the buffalo and different things, smoking the peace pipe,
Nature worship.
Right, nature worship, man. Worshiping, they got into that nature worship spirit, which the Most High tells us in Deuteronomy the 4th chapter that we wasn't supposed to do that. That would be a curse to us. And also in the first commandment, thou shalt have no other powers before me. So when the so-called Native Americans start going off into that, that's when the Most High brought the so-called white man to judge them and punish them. But when they first came here, as we're going to show in some of the history, they were keeping the laws of the Most High as Israelites. Right? But you took that heritage, you slaughtered them off and took their heritage from them. Now a lot of you so-called Native Americans, if you want to make it in America, the tribe of Gad, you got to conform and look like the white man. You can't have your ponytail and your fringes and your ancient garments. Now you got to put on a suit and tie, cut your hair off, look all Americanized. Right? Because they took your heritage away from you. Because all that dress code and everything, the crown and everything that the so-called Native Americans was wearing, all that was part of their history, man. The fringes, all that was in the law. Right, so go back to what we was at, Deuteronomy 33 and 20.
Can I bring this up right
Bring
quick?
it up.
On that scripture right there, right? This is First People, an illustrated history of American Indians. Get a close-up of that, brother. Please, brother. Right? First People, an illustrated history of American Indians. All right? I was coming from LA and I stopped at, I think it was Oklahoma or Ohio, one of those places, right? And I saw this book, so I just picked it up. So right on key, the brother is talking about Micah 2 and 2. We read in the scriptures, and they covered fields and take them by violence. What it says here, in the caption here. Why would you destroy us who supply you with food? Chief Powhatan, or Powhatan, right? Right? And it says right here, in 1622, accompanied by a large band of warriors, he launched the measles and smallpox and numbered only about 5,000. So it's talking about how these so-called Europeans came over here. It was basically bringing their damn diseases and everything with them. I mean, I didn't read everything in here. I wish I would have really got time to go into this, but this is a lot of history right here. And this page says the final New England War, by 1670, the colonists numbered more than 50,000, putting increasing land pressure on the Indians. Repeated epidemics of smallpox and other European diseases continued to weaken the Indians in the area, who now numbered only about 10,000. The key player in the next conflict was a strong Indian leader named Metacom. Metacom was Sachem of the Wampanoag and the son of the great Massasu, who had been present at the first Thanksgiving. And what it says here about the first Thanksgiving, so the friendly relationships enjoyed at the first Thanksgiving did not last long. Because the so-called white man, he's not about peace. He's not about peace, man. So get this book, man. If you can find this book, it's called The First People, an illustrated history of American Indians, man. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really go through it as much, but there's some things in here I went through, and I'll bring it out also, because like the brother said, a lot of you say that
Give me the author again.
This is the author is David C. King, right?
Right.
And look how dark the sister is on the front.
Right.
Okay? And you're gonna talk about the North American Indians are red.
Right. Right.
How the hell you get red out of here?
Right. Right.
Get red out of here.
Right.
Like the Kai said. What is that? This is a black woman right here. Black sister, young girl. How the hell you get the North American Indians are red
Bring it up.
out of this picture?
Bring it up.
How can you get that? Right? Therefore, you want to have something to say. Here in this picture, you have a North American Indian brother, right? On his we call it the canoe, right? And what do we have on there? The shield of David. Huh? The shield of David back then. How about that one? Before you had your Google.
Right. Google images.
You had your Google images and your search for something. They had it right here.
Bring it out.
Right? So I guess they was going off too, right? Why they got the symbol, right? Because it represents the nation of Israel, whether you want to accept it or not. The Native Americans had the shield of David. How about that for you, buddies?
Because they were Hebrew Israelites.
So they was Hebrew Israelites.
Was it the Star of Rephaim?
Right, it was the Star of Rephaim. Okay? Right there, man.
Good.
So you out there, look at this North American Indian brother. Right? Look at him. Do he look like a dang so-called white man? You see that woolly hair up there?
Right.
Right? Look at his woolly hair. Brown-skinned man.
Yeah.
Right? These ain't the Yeshaya images either.
Right.
Okay? They gotta
Get a black man out of that.
black man out of that. Okay? We ain't doing that over here. Okay?
Nah, you go
Okay.
get the real images.
They gonna get the real images, man. They were showing an old black or Native American woman right here. All right? Dark skin, she's brown skin, right?
Yeah, bring it up.
Right? Another one. Right? All through this book, man, got a lot of good images in this book, but the first page of the whole book is a very, look at the images here. Gad on this page.
Bring it up.
Look at the images here.